name is Sonia Kaur Rajbans. I am from Kenya. I am the executive secretary of this club, and at the same time, I am the chair for the education focus pillar of focus. Pillar of focus for education. I'm the chair for this year, and we are running our. We will be running our Inclusive Education Summit this year in October, as Ken mentioned. The two dates that have been confirmed are 24th October and 25th October, which is a Friday and a Saturday. We will be sharing the details with you very, very soon. We should be having our flyers out by next week. So let's start on today's session. As I said, it's a very special one for us today because we're talking about inclusive education, a cross-cultural conversation from a Rotary perspective. As you can see, we come from all over the world. So somebody is saying morning and somebody is saying afternoon, and the other one is in the evening, while some of us already passed the midnight. But this is what the club is all about, inclusive from a global perspective. So we wanted to talk about Rotary's commitment to education, peace, and community development. That is what the focus for today's discussion is. And as we mentioned, we have non-members who have joined us. They are people from other Rotary clubs. We have philanthropists from other organizations with us. We have sponsors, we have education specialists, and we have people who are retired and want to give back to community and feel this could be something that they would like to get involved in. So we welcome all of you to our club meeting, and we are so grateful for you giving us your precious time. We understand how busy life gets, but you still have chosen to give us your 1 hour of the day, and we do not take that for granted. So I will quickly go into my talk. Today's conversation, as I said, is aligned with Rotary's mission of service above self and its area of focus, particularly in supporting education and promoting peace, inclusive education being its key to building equitable, resilient communities around us. So allow me to ask our three panelists that the co-president Ken has pinned for us. So if I could ask Dr. Sigamani to kindly introduce yourself to our viewers and talk about what you do briefly and what your achievements are so that they know who you are in person as we will continue with our conversation kindly.
Good morning, you're on.
Doc, are you muted?
Sorry, am I on?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you are now.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear. My apologies. Sorry, my name is Sigamani Naika, and I've been involved in inclusive education for many years. And I was just telling Ken now, I've become very frustrated because, we're not making much progress, but I think as human beings, we have to be patient and caring and compassionate. I think that in South Africa, I'm on the ministerial committee that advises the minister on inclusive education. So we've just we are currently writing a report, making recommendations around inclusive education. And I worked at a university, and I'm affiliated with 2 universities. My entire emphasis is on producing knowledge that is compatible with an alternative narrative. Because, just a few minutes ago, Amy was talking about the United States and talking about what happens there and the values and so on. I'm of the opinion that as progressive people focused on inclusive education, we've got to produce our narrative that competes with the dominant narrative. And my view is that you can't implement inclusive education in any country in the world simply because there is no policy coherence and there's inconsistencies in the policy. So when you try to implement inclusive education, your immediate resistance is a philosophy, a general philosophy, is the structures and the practices. So I found that, unless you don't make a radical change to the system, it's a real challenge to implement inclusive education. That's my view, and I'll hold it as long as someone convinces me I'm wrong. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Sigmani, we know how passionate you are. Sorry, could we kindly mute? Thank you. Okay. Yes, Dr. Sigmani, thank you so much. As we said, in our club, we are the voices of the people who suffer with disabilities. And we have to look at it from a holistic perspective. We celebrate what we have achieved, and we know there's a long way for us to go. But that just means as long as we're together, the journey is going to be more, memorable, and it will have a bigger impact. So we are together in this, and it is important for us to remember that this is not one man's fight. This is not one man's or one woman's dream. It is a collective dream. And together, we are going to walk the journey. Thank you so much, Dr. Sigmani, for your introduction. May I ask Amy to kindly give us her introduction?
Hi, I'm Amy Bodkin. I'm from the United States. I have an educational specialist degree in educational psychology with an emphasis in neuropsychology. I'm also autistic myself and have 2 autistic children. And I ended up homeschooling both of them, which is a little more popular in the United States than some of the other areas of the world. And I have changed what I've focused on professionally to focus a little bit more on homeschooling as an option, because I tend to work more from, I guess you could say, a grassroots perspective. And while I completely agree with what Dr. Sigmani was saying, that that's very important, I also realize that I have children growing up now, and my problem is now. And I'm like, okay, how can we get around what's not available? How can I make something available when there aren't resources that are available to provide them with the best that they can have? And so now I work with families worldwide, helping some of them make that a possibility. How can we get around systems that are keeping us from being able to provide our children with what they need and what they deserve?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Amy. You're right. We have walked part of the journey alone. We did that for our loved ones, and now we're able to give back. That's what Rotary is all about. It's about service above self. And so it is so heartwarming to see that when you've seen the success that it has brought for your children. But as you said, they never really grow up, Every stage, every age has its own challenge. So as long as we're adaptable and we don't lose focus on what matters the most, and that is the children, we will definitely win this war. Thank you so much, darling. Nafisa, I hope you're still with us. I can't see you. Yes, Nafisa, you'll kindly give us your introduction.
I don't see her there at that moment.
Yeah, she's there.
Yeah, she'll be back.
Yeah. Nafisa, you can hear us, my dear?
I think with the internet, she's dropped out. I'll let you know when she's back.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you so much. Okay, so you've heard from 2 of our panelists who they are and what they think inclusivity is. two different perspectives, both respected equally. So we have so many members and we cannot leave you out. If you were to give us one word that means inclusive education to you or inclusivity to you, we would really appreciate if you could share that word with us on the chat. And in another 3 minutes, we should be able to read some of your comments and see how well aligned we are to inclusivity. So please fill up our inbox with your messages. Nafisa will see you right after, as they are typing in the word that means inclusivity to you, to them. Nafisa, would you be able to now give us your introduction?
Okay, hello everyone. I'm sorry for leaving. We have network issues and it's rainy. I cannot even go far from my place. All right, my name is Nafisatu Issa. I'm a special needs educator from Cameroon. I am a classroom teacher for special needs children in particular. I had a bachelor's degree in special needs education. And currently I am working as the HOD, that is the head of department of the special needs in our school where I teach. Aside from that, I come from the indigenous community. I represent the Bororo community in particular. And I also refer to myself as the double voice because I think I am a person who is capable of sending out our visions from our community. I'm representing my community. And I'm also that person that can go back to my community and give back to them what I've learned so far through my networks, my connections, and interactions I'm having right now. For instance, through these meetings, I see it as a channel for me to empower myself and as someone who can go back and give back to the community. So I'm really happy to be amongst all of you. I'm happy because of the diversity. It is not just limited for those who are in the US, those who are in Kenya or wheresoever, but I see this platform as one that brings together our differences, and we use these differences to strengthen the organization. We don't just limit it because we all want an inclusive world. We all want to create a society where everyone is treated as part of that community that is using the holistic approach. So I'm really grateful and I'm hoping that through this organization, we get to do so much more and spread inclusion all over. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you to Nafisa. Thank you so much. And we're so proud of your accomplishments. We know how much you've struggled. You've been with us for a year since last year's summit. And since then, seeing you grow fills our heart with so much of joy and pride. That is what Rotary is about. It's about family. This club is about inclusivity. And I can see one of our members talked about being part of the family. Another one talked about together. So as you were giving us your introduction, you know, I was looking at what our participants are sharing with us, the sense of belongingness that is so important. There's a community sense that Amy talked about, that Dr. Sigamani talked about, and that is what inclusivity really does mean. When we talk about inclusivity in education, and I know that, you know, you can tell from the answers who is an educationist, who has been in this field, when they tell us that it's equal opportunity for study, it's about equality to all. Inclusive education simply means education for all, regardless of diversity. Yes, we hear you, and we are so glad that we are all, you know, streamlined to what inclusive education means. So yes, we're so glad, and thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. One has just come in, access to education to all without any discrimination. And that's a big statement. So thank you so much. We're also talking about, somebody talks about, to them, inclusive education is friendly environment and national policies facilitating education for all, irrespective of one's disability, sex, that meaning gender, background, and race. And that's so true. We are all about abilities, different abilities, and not the disabilities. We focus on what the abilities are. And that's what makes inclusive education so beautiful. But of course, it is at the end of the day, work in progress, as Doctor keeps reminding us. We have not yet reached our goal. And that is why we're having this discussion today. One of you has also said integrated into mainstream. Yes. So let's get into our word. I think one of the members has asked for an introduction. Allow us to do that at the end of the presentation, as we will also be introducing our new members to the club. So my dear panelists, I believe you're now ready for the questions that we have for you. Allow me to start this conversation with Nafisa. So we know that Rotary emphasizes on service above self. How does this value connect to inclusive education in your experience? You briefly talked about how you're now giving back to the community, but how else have you been able to empower people around you?
Okay, thank you very much for this question. And just the fact that Rotary emphasizes about self, it just goes to show that whatever you do in humanity, you should never limit yourself to your own personal achievements, your own personal successes, and you shouldn't derive, let me say, satisfaction when you are succeeding alone. So at some point in time, given the community where I come from, I noticed that we had some people who could not access education because of financial constraints and other problems that were hindering their access to education. So what I now thought it wise was, why don't I teach these children from home, since I am a classroom teacher and I teach children with disabilities? Because nowadays, so many people do home teaching and they are like, okay, you have to pay me this amount, you pay me this amount. But I saw these people as part of me. I've been living with them already. I know them. So I just had to see it upon myself that I need to give back to these people. I need to give back to my community. So that is how I started teaching these two children from home. And good enough, I was monitoring progress because one of them does not even talk, but he could do signing, even though I'm not a sign language expert. But through the video lessons I did with him, he could sign the first 3 letters of the alphabet. He could identify them. He could identify objects related to these sounds that I taught them. Aside from that, I usually have one-on-one talks with parents, especially from my community, given that they are not educated. When you concern special needs education in particular, you find people from my community being left out. So if I don't give back to them, then I'm not doing justice to my people. So I find myself at every opportunity I get, I try to talk to them, even with just one word, to encourage them, to show them that despite the fact that they are having children with disabilities, it is not a limitation. It shouldn't retard progress in the family or progress when it concerns that learner. So above everything, whatever I try to do it with the intuition in mind that you are not just doing this thing because you were taught to do so, but you are doing it because you need to serve humanity. You need to respond to those that need you at every point in time. Aside from responding to the Muslim community, I always try to give an extra hand to people from other communities who are also facing these challenges, especially when it comes to access to inclusive education. We find so many learners being left behind because they don't have the access. They don't have someone to tell them what to do or maybe even guide them throughout that session. Please, can someone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, dear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So as it stands, everything you do as a humanitarian, I think you should go out of the box out of that surrounding where you do something to please yourself, where you do something to achieve your own personal goals. But if you are in a community where you are achieving and everyone is progressing with you, I think that is the inclusion we are talking about. That is where inclusion comes in, because I don't just see myself succeeding as a Muslim girl from the community. I see that success when my fellow people from that community succeed with me. So doing everything I'm doing, I remove self from it and I focus more on a collective success that we can achieve. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. So we hear you loud and clear. So those of us who are from Africa, which are quite a few, that's exactly what Ubuntu is all about. When we are able to look at a human as just another human being, just as another fellow human being, when we see the divinity in other beings, when we are focused on empowerment for the right reasons, that is when change comes about. And I feel like, Nafisa, you've actually, talked about this quite exclusively and you've expounded so well on it, because you're talking about how you've involved other communities. It's very easy to work within your local community with your own people. It's so much easier because you understand each other's culture. But when you have to embrace other cultures, other beliefs, that is quite impressive because it is not easy. So that leads me to my next question. And I really, really want to take this to Amy, because I have a question that I know Dr. Sigamani is very, very passionate about. So I want to take that question to him. So this one, I know Amy is more passionate about it as well. Amy, what do you think from your extensive collaborations? You've just concluded a summit of your own, and it was such a success. And this is something you did single-handedly. What do you think the cross-cultural conversations why do you think these cross-cultural conversations on inclusivity in education are globally important today? So we're putting it in perspective of today, the modern society as we know it globally. Why do you think that these cross-cultural conversations are important?
It's very important to me, personally, especially because I want to hear what everyone else is doing. What ideas does everyone else in the world have? Because I'm not going to figure it out all by myself. My country isn't going to figure it out all by themselves. But also, what have we tried? What's been a ginormous failure? I want to know what's been a ginormous failure. I want to know what's been a great success. Because it's only through our shared experiences that we can really learn about what the possibilities are. I also want to share what I see happening where I am, and I want other people to share what's happening where they are, because it broadens my perspective of what we need. I've had the opportunity to be able to speak, multiple times in different parts of Africa, especially, but I particularly enjoyed getting to speak with a group at a refugee camp in Uganda, and just hearing about some of the different challenges they face, some of the resources they don't have, but also resources they might have. And it really got me thinking about, what resources do I know of that are accessible? What are resources that I can share from where I am that are already accessible that maybe we're not using? And I think that conversation is so important, because when we work together, we have more options and more possibilities. But I also think that more than that, it really gives us the opportunity to partner together to solve large world problems that no one is going to be able to solve on their own. So, and everybody has something to give. And I think that's really important. I think a lot of times some of our biggest problems when it comes to global conversations has been when we come to the conversation and think, oh, well, I've got it all figured out. Let me help you figure it out so you're just like me. Well, that's not really the goal. That causes a lot of problems. But rather, what have you learned from your experiences? What is your experience like? What have I learned from my experiences? What are my experiences like? How can we bring that together to broaden our understanding and to help each other?
Yeah, thank you. So it's all about an open discussion. It brings us down to the round table, sort of. Let's talk about this. What worked for you? What didn't work for you? How can I assist you? And how can I be assisted by you? So you're having this equal conversations, because at the end of the day, as you said, there's some things that you have that have worked better for you, but that I've not even thought of, because this is not a one person's journey. We're all in it together. So we have to find solutions together. We have to, as we say in education, you benchmark. You have to benchmark to see where the other one has progressed. If we took a different route, what have we achieved? What have they achieved? So we are able to then work together towards global solutions. And thank you so much for that. Thank you once again. It's honestly, it is one of the things that we openly need to talk about and say that, yes, we're all equal in this. It's like parenting. We're all blind. We are not perfect parents, right? And it's exactly that way. We have to talk about this. We have to discuss this. And we have to say what's on our minds. Only then will we be able to find that solution. So thank you once again, Amy. Once again, thank you so much. Dr. Sigamani, I know how passionate you are about this. I've really saved this one for you. What are some cultural or societal beliefs that support or hinder inclusion in your experience? I can see one of our participants has put a message out there that actually is something that resonates with you. But I would like you to also share your experience on that. And let's see if we have answered our guests' question. So, Dr. Sigamani, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a complex question, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because if you look at the history of education, you know, special education had a place in it. It had a history, and it came across as a service that was in the best interest of all the people that needed it. And it was the only way to provide the service. But you and I know that that is not the case.
No.
That, you know, with special education, there were power groups and there were power dynamics that made this narrative the dominant narrative. So, you know, these socially constructed narratives in society are very dangerous, because when we in our country, when we worked on the National Commission to look at a review of education policy, the people that received services in special education didn't think it was a good idea, because they said they wanted inclusive schools. So, you know, societal constructions of knowledge, that's, I think, the biggest impediment to inclusive education is that societal construction of knowledge, special education. Then, you know, we all, you know, as Amy was saying, and as you were saying, and Nafiza, I think a lot of wisdom is flowing from this discussion that we're having. You know, you mentioned that you got to see the divinity in people. And then, you know, Amy said she went to Uganda and she listened to the people, and she said that, you know, she doesn't have all the solutions. We don't have all the solutions. And we always have to be open to new narratives, to new discussions, to new ideas, and we have to respect people for what they say. Nobody would say anything in society that they haven't been forced to believe in, right? And that's the complexity of living in the 21st century, is that, you know, human beings are all so different, but all their ideas are coming from somewhere.
Mm.
And I think our purpose, you know, as an inclusive forum, is to legitimize knowledge and societal constructions that are based on human rights and fair, social justice, which is actually fairness. I think that's what we must strive for, but at the same time, respect every person and every view.
True.
I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did, because what you've talked about is, as you said, it's complex. Human beings are complex. The human mind is complex. The understanding of inclusivity is complex for many, many reasons, as you put it out. And I think this is where the Rotary clubs, like our own Rotary club, comes in and wants to listen so that we can look for global solutions. And that's why today we're all together. Coincidentally, or not coincidentally, I don't know, I believe that when higher powers are blessing us, that's when coincidences happen, that we happen to be discussing this on our 50th anniversary of the club meeting. I don't believe that's a coincidence. I believe that is, for me, a divine, intervention. So what you've talked about is true. How we function and how we define inclusivity in Kenya is very different from the way it is defined in USA or in South Africa. And as I can see, there's a gentleman who's really, really passionate about it from Cameroon. And this is why we need to understand inclusive education from a holistic and global perspective. Now, it's very difficult for us to work under one umbrella in education, as we know that it has different values. As you said, it has different attributes to it. But what can bring us together are the Rotary clubs like our own. So my next question is, if I could kindly start again with Dr. Sigamani, because we're all about solutions. We believe that when we know what the challenges are, then the solutions will also come from us because we see what the challenges are. So my question to you, Dr. Sigamani, as I'll go to Amy and then to Nafisa. How can Rotary clubs and community organizations help challenge the mentioned barriers to inclusion and bridge the gap for the greater good? How do you think, Dr. Sigamani, Rotary clubs like ours in your local area, globally, how can we bridge the gap?
I think Rotary is doing a very good job of that. With Ken having this unique touch around mobilizing people across the world in a very nice way. I think that's a very effective way. In fact, I'm very impressed with that methodology. But I think at the same time, it's very important to generate an authentic, inclusive education narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens, you can see it is quite obvious, right, that a particular administration in a country would adopt a system of education that unwittingly alienates a large part of the population.
Mm-hmm.
It has happened in the most developed countries in the world, where people have imposed their philosophies, which are essentially very conservative,
Mm-hmm.
on the population. Now, I don't want to mention names and I don't want to get into those kind of fights, right? But the point I want to make is, I mean, Rotary has an excellent strategy of mobilizing large numbers of people across the world. I'm very impressed by that strategy. But at the same time, I think what Rotary needs to do is develop an authentic narrative. Because you see, if you don't do that, people are not going to ask the right questions when they're exposed to new policy. People are not going to ask the right questions when they are confronted with a new order, right? And people are not asking the questions. So, say for example, let's take hypothetically a country that imposes a very conservative education philosophy and is able to do it very successfully. It tells you that there were no structures and a philosophy in place that was able to engage with this conservative agenda. And listen, you know, the sustainable development goals, countries are struggling with it. And you don't have to ask the question why, because education has become a commodity in the 21st century. And we need to understand that. So, you know, I was sitting last week and we were working on policy issues. And I realized that there isn't a country in the world that has a pro-inclusion curriculum. Because I think in the majority of countries, there is a select and reject philosophy or procedure. When you get to a select and a reject procedure, then you're talking about a performance culture that's dominant in virtually every country because the OECD is promoting it on a massive scale. So then you ask me the question, what does Rotary need to do? Rotary needs to provide the intellectual tools to its members so that they can advance an authentic narrative in inclusive education. I'll stop there, Chairperson.
I respect that, Dr. Sigamani, and I hear you. I definitely hear you. Thank you for that. I think as you were talking about the countries, I mean, allow me to blow my trumpet here. Kenya has been right at the forefront of that, in Africa at least, where we have stage-based education in our national curriculum. Something that we've just started with the competency-based education framework. But I hear you. When we benchmark with other countries, as you, I'm also involved in curriculum development within the country, and of course, my fellow Kenyan Rotarian, my mentor, and being the one who has actually spearheaded most of these programs through the Ministry of Education. When we benchmark with other countries, we actually realize that we're not at par in the sense of good practice. What is good practice in inclusive education? That is a huge gap. And I hear you when you say that one of our responsibilities as the Rotary Club, especially as global as the World Disability of Advocacy Rotary Club, we have to set the bar high. We have to be the people who are spearheading this and making sure that at least we start off the process and set it in such a way that it will keep progressing. So yes, thank you for that reminder. This is something that we also need to work on, keep working on as a club. So thank you so much for that. Amy, you are surrounded by Rotary clubs where you are. And all clubs, by the way, have the same pillar of focus, which is of education, plus the other 7. So what do you think that they could do to bridge the gap?
I think we have to think in terms of taking a multi-pronged approach, because one approach is not going to be able to do everything. So it is connecting with maybe schools in your area, building relationships with those schools, those teachers, those students, really getting to know them as individuals, what is needed. It's also looking at alternative approaches to education. What other options do we have that can fill in the gap? Can we use homeschooling? Can we use micro schools? Can we use hybrid schools? How can we make education more accessible than it is currently? Because if you have 90% of people with disabilities in the world not receiving an education, then we need to use every single tool at our disposal to make education a possibility. And I think that Rotary Club is in a unique position to be able to help with taking a multi-pronged approach like that, because you have clubs in so many different areas, and each area is going to be unique in what the needs are, what might work, how we might make that work. And so if we have individual Rotary clubs where they are able to build those relationships within their local communities, recognize what are the problems, okay, let's meet together with other Rotarians. What solutions do we have available? What kinds of tools might already be there so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel?
Yeah, that's it. We don't reinvent the wheel.
No, I think it really comes down to relationship and connection, because if you want to change someone's life, then you build a relationship with them, because then you know who they are. And I think that that's one of the things that's been a really big problem in education, is that while infrastructure and our curriculums and everything are important, we can very easily lose the individual in the process. And when we lose the individual in the process, we very often lose people with disabilities.
We do. We do. We cannot be seen leaving even one child behind. And that is why when we look at our inclusive education's program outline, we've made sure that we are talking about the aspects of multimodalities. We're talking about extracurricular activities. We're talking about vocational training. What happens after school? How do we make these learners with different abilities shine in their own light within the world? And thank you so much for that. It's all about connections. It's all about togetherness, as one of our members put it across for us. And that's beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Amy. Nafisa, I hope you're still with us. I can't see
Yes,
you.
ma'am, I am.
Yes, thank you, darling. I think you
My
have
network.
oh, sorry. Are you able to speak?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. In your area, local area, you had mentioned that you have very few Rotary clubs. I hope they've grown within the year, though. But nonetheless, how do you think, in your context, how do you think the Rotary clubs could empower you with what you're doing, empower like-minded people like you when it comes to inclusivity in educational services?
Okay, thank you very much for this question. Well, first things first, I must say I'm grateful to the Rotary Club, because since after I joined the club, I've learned a lot, and learning still from the activities of the club members, and everything surrounded with Rotary. So I must say it's a stepping stone for everyone, and I'm happy to say that with the activities of the club, so many people like myself will be taken to another step, seeing things from another angle, interacting with people from different backgrounds, and getting to know better when it concerns inclusive education in particular. And I would say that for Rotary to continue impacting people, I would really plead with the organizers to keep on pushing their mission forward, to see to it that inclusion is spread all over the world. Aside from inclusion, calling people to inclusion, because as we speak about inclusion, there are so many people who don't even have a clue on what inclusion is all about. So with the advocacy, the activities of the club, doing its best to reach people from all over the world, not limiting it. I think it's a good footpath that in the nearest years to come, inclusion will be like good morning in every area of the world. That is how I see it. Because if we are empowered, definitely once you empower one right person, then that person is enough to spread across the message. So I'm thankful to the club for its endless effort that it has been putting to empower people like myself through trainings, through its various activities that it has been carrying out. Aside from that, we see people in the club like Amy Bodkin, Dr. Sigamoni. We follow up their different activities that they do, and it's inspirational for young people like myself to follow. So I think it's really a plus, because I don't think that when you share knowledge and you keep it, that knowledge has use. Useful knowledge comes in when we acquire it and we transfer the knowledge to other people. So I think in the nearest time, Rotary is going to reach that level of satiety where everyone speaks inclusion, practice inclusion, and sleeps and lives with inclusion as part of them. That is why I'm very fortunate. I'm counting myself among the fortunate ones to be amongst Rotary, gaining knowledge of, in fact, I'm so grateful. So I think with the advocacy and every little activity, every little effort we are putting in, we are going to get to that point of satisfaction where we are bringing people into the society of inclusion. They breed include. That is what I'm aiming for. So I'm really thankful.
Thank you, Nafisa. We hear you, we hear your passion, and thank you so much for being a part of us. Despite all the challenges you faced with your internet connection, you're still here, and you've always been there with us. We're so grateful. You're very right. There's so much of learning that we have done from each other since we have joined into the Inclusive Education Summit. It's just become a platform for growth in so many ways. Some of us have made great friends. Some of us have had good interactions. Some of us have had good programs that we have set up and supported each other in the different countries, in the different areas, and expertise that we all have. We've brought it together and into the summit, and we've tried making it as holistic and as inclusive as possible. So maybe most of you are not aware, so let us share this with you. One of the initiatives the Rotary Club of World Disability Advocacy took up this year, other than the summit, is that we have partnered with one of our members who is just as passionate about service above self, and has given us a program whereby we're able to train teachers on neurodiverse learning, making them competent in classrooms. If I would be allowed to share, I'd just like to share the certificate with everyone. If the host could kindly allow me to share my screen for a short time. And this is what we want to show you, that when we come together to find solutions. And that is exactly what the Rotary Clubs are all about. It's about solutions. And so thank you. I'll just share with you my own certificate that I actually went through this myself. I hope you can see my screen. As you can see, this is a 3-hour CPD accredited training course in embracing neurodiversity. It supports special education needs in the classroom with a focus on inclusion, understanding special education needs, and supporting learners. I recently finished this training in May. By the way, I took like a whole month because I was giving it 5 minutes per day from the busy schedule, but I'm so glad that I got it right. And this is a CPD certified training course. It's UK, I think CPD, UK It's not showing here, but on the actual certificate, it does say that this is UK accredited. So as you can see, when we come together, we find solutions together, we're able to empower more and more people. And that is what that is what the club is all about, empowering. So this course is £40, the cost of it. We fully understand that £40 is not affordable across the globe. However, we have been able to negotiate this down from a much higher rate because, as we said, the member is very passionate about inclusivity in education and empowering the teachers with the right tools. And so they were able to bring it down to £40. But we also have a program where you can adopt a teacher, where you can share your earnings and empower more and more teachers across the world to be certified. We have always talked about invisible disabilities as well. And surprisingly, no one has talked about it yet, even on the chat, because I was going through the chats. We talk about physical different abilities. I don't like calling them disabilities. But the truth is, for us to be inclusive, we have to embrace neurodiversity. We have to. They're with us. We are one of them, as I always say, and I know my co-president talks about it. Amy said herself she's autistic, her children are autistic. I am ADHD myself. And we wear it like a star on our shoulders. We're proud to tell people, this is who we are. This is how we function. You know, we'll get the work done, but this is how we work. And that empowerment comes because we understand each other. We accept each other. Inclusivity is about accepting each other. So if you know the teachers out there who need this training, please get in touch with us. We will share the link with you. And if you feel that you'd like to support the teachers in your local area, please be free and please be their biggest supporters. As we continue with our conversation, I see a lot of teachers. Don't ask me how I know that. I just the questions that are coming through tells me these are teachers, or somehow are linked to the education system, or maybe have been parents who have faced a lot of challenges when they were trying to advocate for their children who have different abilities. We want to know, what are some of the challenges that you face where you are? Please do mention where you're coming from, just the country, and tell us what are the challenges that you're facing when it comes to inclusivity in education. Whether you're speaking for yourself, that was your own experience as a child, perhaps. Whether you're speaking as a parent, whether you're speaking as a teacher, a policymaker, a Rotarian, because one thing that binds us together here today is the fact that we all are passionate about inclusivity in education. So if you could share with us, what are some of the challenges at the end of this presentation, we would definitely want to talk about those as well. So this quickly takes us to the next question, and I can see time is flying. This is a very interesting conversation. So we want to talk about an interesting angle here. And I know it does become a little bit controversy. We are not interested, as Doctor said, we respect everyone's opinions. But in order for us to understand where exactly the challenges are, we do need to talk about these things. So please do keep in mind that we all belong to one global village. We have different chiefs of the village, and we are ambassadors of our countries and citizens of our countries. However, at the same time, we're here to look for global solutions. So I ask of you to please share with us what you feel the challenges are when I'm going to ask this question. But let us also keep in mind that we also belong to other countries and we are very passionate citizens of our countries. So my question is simply this. I'll open it to anyone and everyone that wants to talk about this. What role should governments and civic organizations play when promoting inclusion? What role should they play? This is mainly for the policymakers because you are very powerful people in education. And we look up to you, whether you are in the curriculum development or you are, in the policy making across different organizations. What do you think the challenges are and how has it affected implementation of inclusivity in your country? I can see Mr. Ashutosh has his hand up, sir. You ready with an answer?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I am from India. So basically, this is a common education is a state as well as center subject in my country. So like both can make policy on it. That's why as far I know, so like that's why like both are overlapping. That's why like even though central government has made inclusive education policies, but like states are making their own policies, and that's why it is overlapping. Secondly, like funding issue, like already all things are policy have been made, but there is no proper fund to distribute for this inclusive education. Third thing, even though some fund has allotted, even but like the same HOD or same enabling unit in charge is pursuing, and he or she becomes a very good person in front of authorities, but he or she doesn't do proper job on the ground. Even he or she doesn't even leave his or her job as a head of the enabling unit because he or she is getting some things, materialistic things. Means there is irony. He or she doesn't want to work, but he or she wants every benefits whatever from the post. And next point is like awareness, like issue, like professors, teachers are not properly aware like how to teach students with disabilities. They want to some teachers want to help us, but they don't get training. That's why this is the issue. And last point I want to cover, like if it will cover properly, like it will be disability. Like if I want to talk about feminist movement, like a feminist movement is in every subject, and it every time it gets some questions in our exam. So every students study because he or she gets marks. So if this disability subject and disability topic will include properly, and it will get high marks, so everyone will interest and everyone will study properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ashutosh. So if I could summarize that, basically you're talking about lack of cohesion between the government bodies, number one. Number two being when we are selfish in our service, and that's when it's no longer a service above self. So yes, you're very right. We need to understand that this is for the greater good. There's a struggle for ourselves. We will struggle. The individual will struggle. But at the end of the day, it has to give more benefit to more people out there. And that is the good deed that we need to do. So, Mr. Ashutosh, thank you so much for your views. And we're so grateful for you joining us. Thank you once again. Mr. Njoya, I think I saw your hand up next. And then, of course, our Rotarian Martha will be next. Thank you, Mr. Njoya. The floor is yours. We can't hear you, sir.
Joy, you're muted. There you go.
Are you getting me?
Yes, we're getting you now.
Oh, thank God. It's a pleasure always sharing with the members of the Rotary Club. And the question you raised is a pertinent one. What's the contribution, or how can the government or civil society organizations contribute to inclusive education? Me, I am in Cameroon. I think to improve inclusive education, I think the government should develop and enforce policies that guarantees equal access to quality education for all learners. They should guarantee this access for all the learners. That's including those with disability or marginalized groups. Because like us here in Cameroon, we have the East region where there are pygmies. The government is actually doing nothing about them. They don't care whether they are going to school or not, toddlers of children with disability. So I think they should take that into consideration. Yeah, like this includes, let's say, investing in a teachers training college, because it's not just about going to train a teacher, but it's about training an inclusive teacher, a teacher who has a mastery of inclusive education. They need to look at the accessibility infrastructures. We visit some schools here, you see a schools with 2 or 3 story building without a ramp, no ramp. How does a child with mobility impair access the staircase with his or her wheelchair? All of this is the work of the government, be it private education or public education. The government should enforce some policies which will regulate the construction of these structures. Because if policies were put in place and a private individual who owns a school is building or erasing a building for his school, he will take into consideration the inclusion of persons with disabilities, those who equally access the school too. You see, if the government don't include the training of inclusive teachers in their training centers, inclusion will just be a fiction. It will be a fiction. It won't be a reality. And if you are bringing the concept of now training the teachers, you should equally be thinking of an inclusive curriculum. Don't just bring some stuff and confirm that, yes, we are now training teachers. What is their curriculum? The government need to work on the curriculum of the school or of the education, the teachers training education. Adapt resources. What if we now have 4 or 5 teachers who are visually impaired or hearing impaired? They need to assess, their document need to be inclusive too. So talking of civil society organization, on the other hand, I think they also play a vital role, like in advocating for inclusive policies, because sometimes the government sits and they are very dormant. So there is need for civil society organization to advocate for these policies to be put in place. If they advocate for policies, government will toe the line, because sometimes the government needs some people to come and provoke some talks. Civil society are the one to go out there, raise awareness, tell the people, see the various different groups of persons with disabilities. We have organization maybe of a person with visually impaired. Civil society organizations go there, talk to them that we cannot speak for you. You should go out and speak for yourselves. Sometimes if we are going for this advocacy meeting, we take a group of them and go out with them. It will sound, it will send a very strong signal to the government. So this, I think, is part of the civil society organization to mobilize, to put pressure on the government. If they do so, I think most of this government, they will stand together, because I believe together the government and the civil society organization must collaborate to ensure that no learner is left behind and that inclusive education become a reality. If we allow it in the hands of the government, they will not realize it. And if the government allowed it in the hands of the civil society organization, they will equally not realize it. It needs a strong collaboration between these two groups of persons so as to realize education. Yeah, thank you very much.
Hello.
Sonia,
Hello.
you're muted. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Sorry, Messenger. Yes, just a minute. I'll come to Martha and then Monique. We will come to you. Thank you for your patience. Messenger, yes, we hear you. You're right. It's all about collaboration. At the end of the day, we also have to understand that there's so much that we can do when we are together, when we empower each other, when we encourage each other and tell each other, you can do this. That is what service above self means from the Rotary perspective as well, that we're able to work this together. There's so many things that are not in our control, but what is in our control, we must work on that. We cannot keep quiet about that. So thank you so much for bringing that forward for us. We will take our Martha's comments and then Monique, and I can see there's so much that is being talked about on our chats. We're going to talk about in summary, and we're quite past the hour, so we need to respect the hours. As we said, some of you are joining us at midnight. We need to let you go back to your beds as well. So after Monique, we'll just have a quick summary of the chat, and then we'll go back to our three members, our panelists, and have a last discussion with you, as then President Ken will then continue with the rest of the agenda. So Martha, yes, darling. Please,
Hi, I am a 74-year-old polio survivor who grew up in Mexico. Just imagine, 74 years ago in Mexico. I was in a private school. Everybody were very, very kind to me, very nice, but inclusiveness was zero. You know, I was a very good student because I was always in the classroom. They never took me to field trips because they didn't know what to do with a kid with a disability. So, and things have not changed very much from those times. So I would like to know what is the level of willingness among teachers to support inclusiveness? Because I have heard and seen a lot of resistance, even with the teachers. And I have heard that they say, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. And guess what? There's a lot to do.
A lot to do.
They never took me to sports, and I'm a great swimmer. So they didn't know what to do. And it is probably if the teachers are trained, things could change. And I have a question to the panelists. Is there a country which could be named as a role model in inclusive education? That's a question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Martha. You know, you are one of the most vocal members that we have when it comes to inclusivity. And you're right. This happened to you 70 years ago. Not much has changed across the world. Yes, some positive change has come about, but it's not at the level it needs to be. And that's why it is important for us to talk about this openly and question ourselves, even as teachers. Once a teacher, always a teacher. We have to ask ourselves, how inclusive are we when we are teaching? How accepting are we of the learners that we have? And how honestly You know, how honest are we with ourselves to say, I need to go back and I need to train myself on this. I need to go back to school. I need to understand my learners and to provide them with a better service, because when we look at the teacher is the parent of this child in school. The children spend most of their childhood with their teachers and not with their parents. That is the truth. And we as teachers have to be the advocates for our students. So thank you so much, Dr. Martha, for that. We'll take Monique next.
Yes, hello everyone. Like you heard, my name is Monique. Actually, today I celebrate 9 years post my stroke. Now, you talked about mental, the invisible disabilities. For me, mine is with the civil societies. If there would be a way to diagnose these children and people with disabilities, I feel it's a missing link, like a gap within the disability circle. In that there's misdiagnosis, the misinformation. So that area, I think civil societies can do much better than the policy and all these people. Because the teachers need to diagnose they need to know the disabilities to handle it. How do you handle, many times I keep thinking, was it really a stroke? Was it, I don't know. That neurodivergence, the diagnosis is lacking. And I think that's an area civil societies can engage in. Yeah.
Engage in. Thank you so much, Monique. And we're so proud of the progress that you're making. Thank you for being part of us. Thank you so much. So we have 2 more speakers, and then we will be closing the meeting from this perspective. I believe that would be Mr. Toko. Forgive me if I got the gender wrong. Toko?
Yes.
Miss, sorry, my apologies. Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Greeting to everyone. I'm sorry to join late. Yes, I'm Toko Virginie from Cameroon. I am a woman with a disability, and I am a teacher by profession. I listen late, but I want to talk a little bit about my experience as a person with disability and a teacher. You know, when the parent or the society does not accept persons with disability, it will be difficult. At times, when I enter to class to teach, some children that are so surprised that how come a teacher be working like this. I have some approach me, madam, what happened to your leg? Is it any problem? So I have to, for me, I believe that for inclusive education too, we have to insert inclusive education in our curriculum. So we teach those children that they may have teacher with disability. And if they know that, they will not be surprised when they see a teacher or a person with disability in our society. And if you're a teacher with disability, which they know already there's inclusive education in the curriculum, they will be so happy to understand that despite our disability, we can be a teacher, we can do all type of work in the society. I listened to when I connected, my brother was talking about we have to put pressure on the government to promote inclusive education. I don't believe we have to put pressure on the government. What we have to do is to have a round table, make sure, because those working in the different offices, they refuse to put into practice inclusive education, inclusiveness in general, because they refuse. When you come and tell them that this is what they're supposed to do, they don't listen to you. They don't want to listen to you. They want to do what they like. You said children with disabilities spend more time with teacher than parents. Yes, that's true. But if those parents or those teachers, they don't know anything about disability, they will not be able to accept those children. I believe that a lot of awareness, advocacy have to be done, a lot. I did inclusive education at Rainier Beach High School in Seattle. I came back to my country. as an inclusive teacher. I went to the delegation of Ministry of Social Affairs to introduce myself, that we can work together. I was rejected. I was rejected because I am the one who wear my shoe. I believe as a person with disability, as an inclusive teacher, I can talk more to the community, more to other teachers, and tell the teachers how things can go. But if I'm rejected, how am I going to do? I cannot. So I believe that anything we have to do, it has to do with our mindset. Where our mindset is work out, a lot of things have to be put in place. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Chu. Thank you, Toko. We're glad you joined in, even if you were late, and you have put very valid points across, I must say. You're talking about a mindset shift. You have to shift that mindset. We have to understand that we have to apply what we've learned when it comes to inclusivity. And we are the warriors in the sense that we understand the war that has come to our doorstep. Most of the people don't know that there's this war that we're fighting for inclusivity simply because it may not have come to their doorstep. So it is true the teachers have to be trained, and once they're trained, then they have to be put in the right environment as well. And that is why one of the things that we're trying to cover in the inclusive education is the mental health of the teacher. Very important. Empowerment of the parents. They must understand the role that they play. And at the same time, we also have to respect that we are the voice of change. So we have to keep knocking the doors until we get until the door gets answered. So thank you so much, Toko, for joining us, and keep up the good work. We're proud of what you're doing. Yes, Florence, thank you so much for your patience, my dear. We'd love to hear your views, and then we go to some of the
Hello, everybody. My name is Florence. I lead the polio chapter. Having had polio in 1953, I was on home instruction, which means the teacher came to my house. One teacher for every subject. For the 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. The end of the 10th grade, when I really was learning very little, because the teacher only knew biology. So there went everything else. My mother, and I give her all the credit, she decided I should go back to school. Now, mind you, this had never been done in New York City. I was the first one in New York City in the high school to go from class to class. What they did was they took a kid, they gave her service credit. She would take me from class to class. We never went on field trips, and that's so I can't speak about that. I was treated like everybody else. There was an elevator in the school, which only those kids with disabilities were allowed to use. I realized that in this group, that the attitudes and culture of the varying countries is so diverse and so different that when you talk about inclusivity in any area of life, I think you have to change. First, there has to be law, some law written down that they have to do it. But more important than the law is people's attitudes. Unless the attitude changes, nothing is going to change. You could be allowed into a store, into a restaurant, which I just went the other day with a friend, and the waiter still talked to her, asking my friend what I wanted to eat.
Oh.
You know, this happens routinely. And here we are in 2025. But I appreciate what you're trying to do. And I can only not even imagine what it would be like to have an invisible disability. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
I know what it is to go into a store in the motorized chair, but to go into the store being very high functioning autistic and nobody knows. I can't imagine that. That must be a horror. You know, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And we're so glad that you were able to share the story with us. It's so true that when you are made to feel part of the group, you have that sense of belonging. You feel like there's so much that you can accomplish in life. Something that you've talked about indirectly, but I can see a lot of the conversations here are openly talking about that stigma. The stigma that lives with us for those of us who have been not treated right.
Mm.
And that is something that people live with for generations. So we're so glad that you joined us today. Thank you so much. And really, it's inspirational to see what you have achieved. We know the work that you're doing, and we're so grateful for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you too. So basically, we all are in agreement that we need to normalize, and I'm putting that in quotes, normalize different abilities. They're not disabilities, they're not inabilities. They're just different abilities. When we see children with different abilities, and we see teachers with different abilities, when we see people in the offices with different abilities, when we understand that somebody is actually having a meltdown and they're not just being stubborn, when we're able to identify what somebody is actually challenged by or what they're struggling with, and we become their friend, as Florence was so blessed to have one with her, we're able to communicate better. And we're able to make the world a better place to live for everybody. We all belong to this world. We all have a place that we have been given by the divine powers that created us. This is our home. So it is very important for us to respect that. And as much as I want to go through each and every comment that you've all shared with us, but allow me to just take a few, because I know my president is informing me that time is up. And I think we've talked about the stigma. We've talked about normalizing seeing teachers with different abilities. We've talked about how neurodiversity needs to be advocated for, and which is why as a club, as I said before, this is why for us, the first training we want to do for teachers was on neurodiverse inclusion. We've talked about what happens to refugees with disabilities, especially in Uganda. They've talked about something that we will definitely look into as a club and see how best we can include you in the inclusive education and give you a platform to share your views. We're talking about the struggle that the students with different abilities see in classrooms, how they're not able to feel, a part and parcel of their own peer group, how they feel embarrassed when they're humiliated. We're not talking about bullying enough. Bullying is the real evil that lives within society because it doesn't stop in school. It continues, even in workplaces, in homes, and how we need to not normalize bullying regardless of what the challenge may be. And I think the more we're looking into what you are sharing with us, I've taken snapshots of each and every message that you've put out here to us, and we will review this as the board and as the steering committee of the inclusive education pillar of focus. And we really, really do thank you for opening your hearts with us. So as I come to the conclusion, my three panelists, you're still with us. We have the last question for you, which is basically, this is a reflection. If you were to design a Rotary service project on inclusive education, what would you focus on? What would be your main focus? That is something we would like to know. If I could start with Amy and then go to Dr. Sigamani and hope that Nafisa is back from her prayers. So Amy, what do you think? How would you draft that for us?
What I would choose is based a lot on my perspective, but I would choose to create a very simplified set of materials that could be used to provide education at home to children worldwide that could be easily translated into different languages and cultures, so that we can at least get some education to the 90% of children that are not receiving any education.
Cool. So something adaptable.
Yes, very adaptable across countries, but provides a basic amount of training in how we can use what we already have to provide education when it's not acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Dr. Sigamani, what would you do?
Yeah, I think I would suggest or recommend that Rotary actually develops a manual on inclusive education that explains the philosophy and explains the difference between a conservative education system and an inclusive education system, and then what that philosophy means for structures in a department of education, for example, and then what it also means for the other policies that you have in education. Because a lot of these other policies are all conservative policies and you put inclusive education there. And then what does it mean for practice in the classroom? So people in the Rotary community will have a common understanding of inclusive education and will be guided when asking questions about what happens in the contemporary world. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you so much. Yes, you're right. I think we have the level of understanding now because of all the conversations we've had over the past 2 years. We are at a better understanding point. I'm not saying we've got it all, as Amy said, we don't know all. We don't. But at least we are a little bit more educated about what inclusive education means, and especially when you're talking about people with different abilities. At the same time, yes, we also need to think about streamlining from a global perspective, something that is workable and can actually help somebody see the difference. One of the members had talked about how schools call themselves inclusive, but do not practice inclusivity in real life. And therefore we're able to then talk about inclusivity, and somebody can understand, a parent can understand what an inclusive school means, what a special needs school means, what an integrated school means, what does a hybrid system mean, what does homeschooling mean, what are the kind of different schooling systems available to me as a parent, how can I advocate best for my child, because at the end of the day, if the teacher can't understand my child, I definitely should be able to understand and advocate for them. So thank you, Dr. Sigamani, for that. We will be working on that hopefully soon. Nafisa, are you back from your prayers?
Yes, yes, I am. Thank you very much. I've been following up. So I must say I agree with Amy Bodkin, because if we can come up with devices that can help translate information, translate what we want to pass out to people in different communities, then that would be great. Because if I'm going to my village now to work with those people, I won't speak English. I won't use English as a language because they won't hear me. So I need to talk to them in my dialect. And if I don't really know the dialect very well, it becomes a problem, even giving them access to what I want to pass on. Because we know when it comes to inclusion, persons with disabilities in particular, when they don't have access to information, it already becomes a barrier. So if we can remove these barriers by giving them access to information, access to advocacy activities, or maybe that message, or maybe even teaching, because as she rightly said, not everybody has the opportunity to go to formal education. Some of them stay back in their houses, and that is a very common thing in my village. So I don't expect them to go to school in other towns or whatsoever. The least I can do is maybe come in with some devices that can help me communicate with them, even work with them one-on-one for a better understanding. So I think I'm agreeing with Amy Botkin for her idea is a great one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nafisa. And we're so glad that you were able to stay with us despite the challenges that you had. Yeah, you're right. We definitely do need to think about accessibility, basically. And accessibility goes beyond devices. It goes beyond technology. It goes beyond availability as well. So how are we able to empower each other and still get quality education to the best of our available resources? How are we able to utilize them? So thank you so much. You've been wonderful, my dear panel. I'm so proud of being, your partner in this. It gives me so much of joy when I work with you all. And I truly feel that we are blessed to have this platform to come and talk about what we're passionate about, and that is inclusive education. To our viewers, I know a couple of you had to drop out. We are so grateful for your time. We've taken more than 2 hours of your time, and we don't take that for granted. We really, really value you as individuals, you as our partners, you as our panelists and members. We do hope you'll be joining the Rotary Club very soon. You may join us. You can join a club next to you. Please, please, please do give your input. We need to make this world a better place for all of us. So thank you once again for the opportunity and for your patience. God bless you.